Greetings, dear listeners. Hope you're all doing well. We're out here tonight to welcome the arrival of the full flower moon. The full flower moon of May the 5th, 2023. And to ask a question. Do werewolves smile? Do werewolves smile? Or do they just growl and yowl and howl? To find out the answer to this mysterious question, stay tuned for my upcoming video, The Werewolf Smiles, featuring footage of tonight's full flower moon shot by Dr. Curious. So, without any further ado, I'm going to ask the good doctor to give us a panorama shot of tonight's full flower moon. Full flower moon of May the 5th, 2023. So stay tuned for The Werewolf Smiles. Till midnight, keep smiling. The werewolf smiled. Eric hated everybody. He'd always been a bit different, even in grade school, and had always been bullied before. But now that he was a full-grown man in his final year of high school and capable of defending himself with both his tongue and his two strong arms, the physical stuff had stopped, only to be replaced by something worse. Something far worse. Social isolation. Simply put, Eric's compatriots avoided him like the plague. At school, he always ate his lunch alone. It was the same thing when he visited any of the local bars. He was of age. Whenever he visited any of the local bars, he ended up sitting by himself, watching life going on around him with envious eyes. He'd hear about parties and get-togethers, but he was never invited. Never. Not once. So Eric walked alone. For he was different. He had never been interested in sports or cars or pop music or who was going out with who or who was going to bed with who. No. Eric was interested in the paranormal. Since no one talked to him, Eric always had his nose in a book, even in the school cafeteria. Books of ghost stories, books on poltergeists, haunted houses, witchcraft, Bigfoot, cryptids, UFOs, serial killers, vampires, and werewolves. I wouldn't be surprised if that guy ends up as a serial killer. Kinda like that Jeffrey Dahmer dude, the kids would whisper to each other. Eric knew what they said about him, which made the flame of his hatred burn even brighter. As a result, Eric was taken aback when Richard, a guy he hated, walked up to his lonely cafeteria table and slapped a paperback book down in front of him. Eric just stared at it. Something about werewolves, vampires, and ghouls, and then stared at Richard without saying a word. Still, Richard kept smiling at him. "You like all that paranormal stuff, eh?" he said. A statement, not a question. "I found this book at my grandparents' house the other day, and I thought it might interest you. There's even stuff in there about how to become a werewolf, if you can believe it." What Eric didn't believe was that Richard was being sincere. Still, a gift was a gift, so in the end he grudgingly said, "Thanks." As soon as Richard began walking away, Eric picked up the book for a closer examination. It was a very old paperback from the 60s or 70s with yellowed pages and a cracked binding and written by some dude named Herwood. And it did contain a formula for becoming a werewolf. And so it was that a few nights later, Eric, stripped naked under a full moon, knelt at midnight before a small fire in an isolated section of the woods, reciting the following incantation. Spirits from the deep, who never sleep, be kind to me. Spirits from the grave, without a soul to save, be kind to me. Spirits of the trees that grow upon the leas, be kind to me. Spirits of the air, foul and black, not fair, be kind to me. Water spirits hateful, to ships and bathers fateful, be kind to me. Spirits of earthbound dead, that glide with noiseless tread, be kind to me. Spirits of heat and fire, destructive in your ire, be kind to me. Spirits of cold and ice, patrons of crime and vice, be kind to me. Wolves, vampires, satyrs, ghosts, elect of all the devilish hosts, I pray you send hither, send hither, send hither, the great grey shape that makes men shiver, 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 shiver. Come, come, come. Eric was supposed to have ingested various substances and to have smeared his body with a variety of disgusting ointments, but he prayed, well, not to God, he prayed that the fire and the chant would be enough. He knew they were making fun of him, of course, which just made him hate them even more. But what if it worked? What if it worked and he became an actual werewolf, able to slash and rend and slay? They wouldn't be laughing then. Oh no, and the thought made Eric smile. He then bowed his head and awaited the arrival of the huntsman. The huntsman, a malevolent spirit able to grant mortals the powers of evil, including the power of transformation from man to wolf, the power to become a werewolf. A cold wind came out of the darkness, rustling the leaves and sending a chill down Eric's back. The huntsman was coming. But suddenly, the lights of a car appeared, the vehicle bumping down the dirt trail leading to the woods and to Eric's fire. Eric recognized the vehicle. It belonged to Richard. Richard, the guy who gave him the book. He could see it all now. The whole thing was a setup, another humiliation. They knew he would try to become a werewolf. No doubt they had their phones ready to film the whole thing. Eric crouched in the bushes, butt naked, as the hot tears of rage coursed down his acne-covered face. And then someone, or something, touched him on the shoulder. It was a tall, dark figure, incredibly thin, its head crowned by a huge set of antlers. It was the huntsman. Eric felt an electric shock course through his veins, ignited by the huntsman's touch. And at the same time, he felt clumps of thick, itchy hair breaking out all over his body as his ears became pointed, his nose elongated into a snout, and his yellow teeth grew into sharp white fangs. And just before his face lost its last semblance of humanity, Eric once again smiled. The werewolf smiled. And when he came charging out at his startled tormentors, the werewolf laughed. Or at least, howled. The moral of the story: when you smile at the misfortune of others, the whole world won't be smiling along with you. If this is your first visit to my channel, please consider subscribing. My name is Warren, and I write and tell original ghost stories and original horror stories featuring such cryptids as the Night Floaters, Werewolves, and the Black-Eyed Children. So again, please consider subscribing. Please help me to reach my goal of 2,500 subs. Till midnight, cheers! Video used in today's presentation was taken by Dr. Curious, while the music was the classic Ghost Processional by that patron of the internet, Kevin MacLeod. The Incantation on how to become a werewolf is courtesy of the Project Gutenberg ebook of Werewolves by Elliott O'Donnell.